following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you back to the channel here. As you can see, I'm joined by my bearded brothers. I have Paddy Boy up top with me and Paul D down bottom. It's a beautiful sunny day outside. There's plenty to be smiling about, and the rumour mill, guys, appears to have fired up nice and early. It is just rumours at the moment, but it's always positive to be on. Talking about Celtic and perhaps talking about Celtic in a positive mindset where they look as if they are forward planning. We all know the league is in sight. There's a potential treble. We've got a good squad. There might be people departing. Well, there's definitely Greg Taylor departing, but we do need reinforcements. With the Champions League qualifier pretty much there, and we know what we're tackling, we need those players in. We need to build this squad on what we've already got, get stronger to give ourselves the best fighting chance when and if, hopefully, we get into that, but also in the league. And there's a few names that we're going to rule the roost over. I have cast not my expert eye, but my average footballing scouting eye over it. I've got some facts. I'm going to throw them out at the guys, and you can give me a yay, a nay, or a maybe when it comes to these names. So, Paddy, how are you feeling this morning, my friend? You good?
Yeah, all good, mate. Happy to be back. It's nice to see Celtic starting to do a bit of business a little bit earlier than what we're used to. Obviously, previously, I feel like they've messed up with the Adamida and Arnie Engels situations where I feel like we overpaid for them. And I'm sure everybody will agree with that. I think that the board now realise this and that we're starting to get a bit of business done.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Oh, you can't ask for
that's
that.
nice to see. Unusual for Celtic, but it's nice.
Exactly. You know, that's the thing. We always remember, we said under Ange, Paul, we did that wee bit of forward planning where, boom, there was a January window. 1, 2, 3, players were in the door. Love it. We've not seen that. We've been scrambling. We've been grabbing. We've been overpaying, as Paddy says. But again, they're only rumours. But at least it's nice to hear about people getting looked at early. And with one of the players, at least, well, it'll play into another 2 linked names as well. We seem to have sent over scouts and it's a recurring name, so that's only positive. It's exactly what we need, and hopefully there's a wee bit of weight in these rumours, mate. Eh?
Absolutely, it's progressive. It's exactly what we need to be seeing for a team and a club that are considering themselves, to be getting into Europe again and want to really make a fist of that competition as we did last year and kind of improve our status there. So bringing in more bodies, there maybe will be departures as we know, so we just have to stay agile and bring in the players that we've been linked with some of them before, but we have to stay on top of the competition and make sure we're bringing in some really good progressive talent.
Absolutely, and we'll get in about that. So we'll get in about those names in a minute or two, but as I say, it's just a wee warm welcome to everybody. Thank you very much. As we said the other day, that was us 1 year as an up-and-running podcast, and we are eternally grateful to every single one of you. They take the time out your day, make this a regular thing as part of your week to come and listen to us talk about Celtic. To everybody who has subscribed, thank you very much. If you've donated to the channel, again, we are greatly appreciative of it. Last thing you need to do, most important thing you need to do, hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing to do that, but it helps us grow the channel. By now, you know the links. They are down below if you want to get us elsewhere on social media. So anyway, guys, as we always say on CWO, let's get down to business. Let's get right into the thick end of these names. And the first name I'm going to throw at you here is Mikuel Ange Balikwisha. This is a name that we all well know. This was a one that we were looking at way back in the summer. Seems like an eternity now. At that time, playing for Royal Antwerp, and we knew that the asking price was supposedly, that being the key word, around about 7, maybe up to £8 million. Who is he? Well, he's a 23-year-old left winger playing at Antwerp, as we said previously, starting out his career in the 2021 season as Standard Liège. The headline numbers for him: 172 career appearances, a whopping 11,878 career minutes on the field, 34 goals, 19 assists. He is part of the Belgian unders setup where he's got 23 caps at varying levels, 3 goals. And in terms of last season, when we were first looking at him, he had a record of 10 goals and 8 assists in that season, including some Champions League experience. As we say, this is the important one with him. It got derailed because he took quite a serious injury. It was a thigh tear that he got, and that left him on the shelf. 127 days, the equivalent to 17 games for Antwerp. Obviously, that snuck in pre-season into the start of the season, so it was a during the summer type injury, and it's carried its way through. He's only started to get himself back on the field, but since he's returned, 8 games, 1 assist, no goals, and a mere 344 minutes on the field. Now, guys, the one here is profile-wise, yes, young in the international setup, good profile, playing at a decent level, some Champions League experience, very nice, tick, 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 tick. The worry is always going to be the injuries. He says this recent one, 127 days, the equivalent of 17 games. He has previously had another tear in the thigh. Don't know if it's the exact same one, but a similar injury, during which that put him out 59 days and 12 games for Antwerp. And his total time at Antwerp, he's missed 402 days, which has been equivalent of 62 games for them. I'll start down with yourself, Paul, on this one. It's a name that we have heard before. As we say, we're looking at that 7-8 million sort of price bracket. That would have seemed fair for an up-and-coming starter, a guy that was in the squad. He's had the injuries, he's had the layoffs. He's also had multiple injuries, as we know, because he went at 402 days out by that point, but that could be by the by. His price now appears to be dropping. We're willing to entertain around about the pocket of 5 million. Why? Combination of injuries, but also 1 year left on his contract. The reports were saying that we had scouts out to see him play in the game against Union Saint-Gilloise, in which his side took a tanking, but that's by the by. And that will also play into 2 of the other names that we've heard floated. Paul, what's your thoughts on Balikwisha? Certainly with Maeda's return to form as a striker, and we've heard the manager say, looks as if he's going to be a striker moving forward, enter the requirement for a new winger. Balikwisha, any concerns? Are you still excited about this one, or does injuries put you off a wee bit?
It looks to me, on the face of it, as if there's no smoke without fire with this, because his name seems to be one of those ones like Visgarden and various others. It seems to just key, whether it's just the journalistic side of it or whether it is actually legitimate, it appears to be a wee bit more than that, and that would indicate that maybe there is a bit more truth in this one. And what we have to determine is the fact that we already have a very high bar in terms of the players in that position and a very good squad. And is he going to be at that level and able to go above it and take us on? We need to be getting players that will take us on and not just be, well, they might work, they might not work. So the price has obviously now been reflected given his injuries, which are documented, as you say. The people that are doing the scouting know a lot more than me, but from what you've said, you know, he's a player that likes to get forward. He's had these injuries which are kind of muscular, which can happen to any player, really. I don't think there's much to him. What kind of weight is he? Is he quite a lean player?
Yeah, he's quite slight in stature. I would probably compare him not too dissimilar to what we've seen from Nicholas Kuhn or even the returning Jota. So wingers tend to be, as we well know, they tend to be sort of light-footed guys that are a wee bit more slender for pacing purposes. I wouldn't say that he particularly looks like he's a muscle-bound strong guy, but that's maybe not his role that needs to be there. Bear in mind, as you says, the game that in Scotland can be quite physical. Is it a positive that these injuries have been not necessarily an impact as a result of a challenge, or is it more concerning the fact that, particularly in a high-intensity setup, the way that Celtic play, the high press, the fast football, that if you are pulling up with these kind of injuries, is that concerning?
Slightly. I mean, it's a type of ballistic injuries that, you know, short, sharp bursts and whatever else, you know. I'm no doctor, but certainly these kind of, you know, thigh injuries that can reoccur, and it can, as we've seen with some players in the past, it can come back to haunt them. Yeah. With the type of game that we play, playing through the lines with the fast wing kind of football, wing play, it's a slight concern, I must admit, that if he is getting these injuries, and they have been quite recent, then we would really need some kind of good medical background to say he's over it. But there's no crystal ball with these type of things. You bring players in, you just have to take the kind of chances. But as long as that's reflected in the price, I don't see why it shouldn't be a wee bit of a gamble and get him in.
Yeah, absolutely. Paddy, as a guy we discussed, we sat here and spoke about him previously, and we were obviously quite happy. We liked the sound of what we were seeing and talking about. Obviously derailed by injury. As we well know, look, we're bringing back a guy with a storied injury history in Kieran Tierney, an elite footballer, a brilliant opportunity, one that you just simply couldn't pass up. Is it a similar situation with Balikwisha where he's still so young? Yes, he's had 2 recurring injuries that have been similar. However, when you tip the scales and you look at his experience and you look at his trajectory up until that injury, it's kind of one that's maybe worth taking the gamble on. Similar way, I'm not saying that Tierney's a gamble, but there's always been concerns about him. But what I mean is the fact that 1 year left his contract, he has had an injury, the team are just going, let's get rid of him, let's get some money. Is that the time to roll the dice on somebody like him?
Possibly, mate. Yeah. When you think about it, his stats are obviously pretty decent. What worries me is obviously, like Paul said, there Celtic play a very high intensity. We play hammering down the wings. We want to go forward. We want to do a high press. We want our wingers to be pressing onto the defenders and basically causing a lot of carnage. We expect a lot from players in that position because we've had guys like Daiza Maeda, who's just an absolute anomaly. So when you think about guys coming in, you're wanting them to be at the top of the game. You want them to be fit. We spoke about this like for like, taking off somebody like Jota and bringing on, whether it be this guy or whether it be Daiza Maeda. You need somebody to be up to that standard and able to give you that press. The muscle injuries kind of worry me a little bit, especially because he's so young. You said Kieran Tierney and you're kind of comparing a little bit there, but obviously Kieran's at his later stages of his footballing career and we know exactly what Kieran can do. So for me, obviously having Kieran in there and having somebody like maybe Jeffrey Schlupp as a backup then creates a pretty decent like for like for me. So going into it, yes, statistically he looks good if he can remain fit, and that's where the gamble comes. That for a bargain price of 5 million. If we can maybe get him a little bit less than that, then I said, you know what, it could possibly be an option.
And Paddy, I think what you said there is true, and folk would forget that. They lose sight of that. A bargain price of £5 million, right? Yeah. Now, we'd often say, set the bar, set 5 million, try and raise the basic level of the squad pricing to be in that pocket, right? 5 million really is, it's nothing in modern football, and it should be nothing to Celtic. And again, you'll roll the dice on certain guys. Some of them will work out and some of them won't. However, we've come back to this one. We have returned, so clearly we see something there. Obviously, there'd be proper due diligence. He'd have to pass a medical, but have all the information with all the stats. In terms of the injury, I get it. It's one of those with the intensity we play, there's always going to be danger there. However, if it was going to be into an Ange team, for example, my concern level would be far, far higher. Because as we know, during that Ange period, it was hamstring Ping City. And fortunately, touch wood, we've not had too much of that under the Brendan setup. We still play a very similar brand of football. However, we have managed to negate those injuries. So, look, this is one that I think that if we are interested in, as I say, with Maeda, clearly in the way the manager's been talking, looks as if he's definitely going to get pulled in that striker role. It frees up a wee bit of options on the wing. Jota, very versatile. He can play the left, he can play the right, gives us that cover. So I think that would be a good one. And it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. As we said, sent the scouts over there. So we'll take it as we find it.
We paid more for broadcast, didn't we?
Aye. Yeah. That's it. We'll take it as we find it. But
just going back to that period where we had all those horrific injuries, I remember thinking, is there some kind of curse on us? It was just constant. Every player in every position, apart from I think the goalkeeper was injured. But we seem to be getting a good rub of the green in that department.
Well, as we say, guys, the other names that came in sort of popped up over the past day or two are from Union Saint-Gilloise. Now, that's quite interesting. Is it just complete coincidence that they were playing them and we were looking at Balikwisha? Where we were looking at Balikwisha? We were looking at them all. Who knows? But again, these are names that are out there. This is silly season. We're going to start getting linked with everybody and anybody. But again, there's 2 names here. I'll run them by you and we'll see what we think. Now, the interesting things we say is, and I quite like, though, is there seems to be a level of consistency in terms of what type of player we're looking at. Obviously, Balikwisha is one that we're returning to. We'll go on to Christegarden because one of these guys could well be a pivot from that. Very similar, however. Now, we said the other night, the news broke of Sporting Lisbon hijacking a pre-contract signing for Georgi Konashvili from Levante. We like the sound of him. 25-year-old, plenty of experience, 171 appearances, 19 senior caps for his country, for Georgia. Good profile. We missed out on that one. He is going to Sporting Lisbon. However, we then look at the other name that's mentioned here, slightly younger, similar position, similar profile, and that is this chap here, who is Noah Sadiki. He plays for Union Saint-Gilloise, as mentioned. He's a 23-year-old central, but more importantly, defensive midfielder. This is a position that we've been crying out for. A bit of grit, a bit of determination. He is a Democratic Republic of Congo internationalist, albeit he was Belgian born and had 10 Belgian youth caps there. At senior level, he's had 4 for Congo and 2 in their youth setup since making the transition. Currently at Union Saint-Gilloise, where he's been there since 2023-24 season, and to date, 99 appearances, 2 goals, 7 assists. He was previously with Anderlecht, starting his career out at the 21-22 season, where between the first team and senior and youth team, he made 33 appearances in total. Now, the chat around this chap here is slightly a wee bit more pricey, if you will. The chat could be in the pocket of 8 million up to as much as 10 million, potentially add-ons. Now, a defensive holding midfielder is something we've needed. The positives for him, he does have some European experience, albeit Conference League, but that's not his fault. You can only play with what you've got. He's also got some in Europa League, and some decent turnouts. Fenerbahce, Bodo Glimt, Rangers, Twente, Roma, Ajax. So he's got a bit of experience in that arena, and including Champions League and failed Europa League qualifiers previously. Paddy, again, it's good to see a competitive midfielder. I believe he's in around sort of the 6 foot, and if you want to go with stature, looks like a bit of a strong young lad. This is a position that we've been wanting, that we've been crying out for. Now, for me, we spoke about the other night, whether you like it or not, we're not trying to sell our players. It keeps on coming round. Keeps on coming round. Hatate looks like the most likely candidate. Now, I know this isn't a like for like, because Hatate isn't a defensive midfielder, but when you look at the slightly creative options where you could then make room and move an Arne Engels forward, you've got Cal McGregor doing what he does, and Bernardo's a nice wee hybrid, but he's got creativity, but he's also got a bit of grit. This is a position, mate, that we've been shouting out for years and years now. Does that tickle your fancy any, mate?
Yeah, when we spoke about it before, obviously we kind of compared him to the Wanyama type kind of player. Obviously now that he's came back to Dunfermline and he's had his absolute carnage debut against Ayr, we'll kind of put him in the bin after that. Listen, Wanyama was an excellent player for us. Obviously, I'm kind of gutted that he's had that start to his new spell here, but a similar type player, somebody who's going to break up the play, somebody who's going to be that man in there that's going to do the dirty stuff. Obviously now we've got Arne Engels coming in and doing that as well, and I'd like to see that be taken away a little bit from Arne, where he doesn't have to rely on it. I'd like to see him, like you said, Steve, free up that role for him and push him a little bit forward, because I think he's got the ability, and I think that would be a better position for him to be in. And having somebody that you can rely on at the back. Obviously, I'm not saying you can't rely on Cal McGregor, of course you can, but I think to have somebody in there who is specifically just a defensive midfielder. I mean, this guy's played at centre half as well. He has played as a defender when need be. So he's somebody that can adapt. He's somebody that can go in there. He is going to be an asset, I think, coming into that team. The £8 million price mark on him, possibly more, states that they value him. Obviously, he said he's got European experience, he's got international experience, still quite young. A big player, doesn't score many goals, but listen,
that's not his job. Yeah,
that's not his job. Exactly. That's you took the words right out of my mouth. And for me, if he's going to be in there and he's going to break up the play and he's going to set up the rest of your players and let the forward thinking players do their stuff, then for all accounts, I'm quite happy to be looking at somebody of this stature.
Yeah, Paul, how do you think as he says, a position that we've been trying to do, you know, with some failed experiments of trying to fill that void, and it's something that we really, really need. How do you think that would reshape our midfield, if we were to go after a guy like Sadiki and be successful enough to, land him and get him in the door, as we say, the reality is it's more than likely that Hatate would be, if I was to ask 100 fans, who do you think the most likely player to leave, other than who we already know and Greg Taylor's going to leave, most are going to say Hatate. It's fact. How do you think that would reshape the midfield? Because as Paddy says, I know you're a big fan of Arne Engels. He has got a lot of creativity, but with that way, the options normally it's either going to be him with Hatate and McGregor, or you drop out Hatate and you put in, Bernardo or something. We've never truly seen him be the main creative spark in the midfield there. Do you think that's something that Celtic need? And again, is that something you like the sound of?
It is indeed. I like the idea of his age, his physicality, his experience to date for his age is pretty good and growing all the time. Echo exactly what Paddy says. The midfield as it stands at the moment, I know Paddy's been up and down with Engels, but sometimes feels like Engels is definitely got shackles that he needs to, somehow break into a different role. And with the evolution of the team, and Callum's not getting any younger, as much as he's been absolutely fantastic for us, absolutely stalwart captain. Things will progress, and I think if Hatate does go, then the midfield will become a Rodgers midfield, if you like. There'll be less of the kind of Ange era. We'll start to see more of a kind of evolution of probably Brendan wanting to bring in his own, players, and they've all been great for us. But I think the physicality in the middle of the park is definitely, desperately needing bolstered, because too many times against certain teams we have been overrun in the middle of the park, and that is unforgivable and unacceptable for a Celtic team that have been this successful to have days where the middle of the park just doesn't turn up. So I think this boy could be somebody who could be a definite contender, and if he comes in, I'd be quite excited, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, when we look at these players, they're playing the Belgian league, right? And say what you will about it, it's a decent standard. Is it any worse than the Scottish Premier League?
Absolutely
the answer
not.
to that's no. I'd actually probably argue that there's maybe more teams that are consistent in that league than there is in Scotland. You've got Celtic, you've got Rangers, and then it's a toss-up. How are Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs going to do it? Who knows? But I think there's consistently better teams. And it says, with the European experience, regardless of what level it's at, Europa League, Conference, they're still getting it there. And more to the point, he's making appearances and he's nailing down a position in a decent league. So again, at the moment, these are just rumours. These are just things that are getting thrown out. But again, similarly, as I says, with the example of the Kornishvili one that we apparently missed out on, it's a very similar player. So at least there appears to be potentially being the word there, something of a stepping stone where that's who I want, and see if I don't get them, it's them, and so on and so forth. Rather than going, well, I would put all our eggs in that basket. Right, who's available? James McCarthy, give me that. That's not what we want. That's not what we want. So anyway, guys, last name it's on here isn't Matthias Christegaard. Now, this is what I'm saying. It could be a pivot from this. Of course, we know that since Kyogo went, we've been shouting out, we've been looking for a good quality additional striker. We've had some other guys that have tried to fill that void. I see O's setting a house on fire since his move, so well done to him. People say there was a player in there. I don't think it was ever going to work at Celtic, but he's found a level. However, with Kyogo moving on, we desperately wanted a striker now. The manager kept his cards close to the chest. When he went, he says, I want to get another striker in. It didn't materialise. Whatever the reasons were for that, financial, farting about, Celtic being Celtic, who knows? It didn't happen. Now, Matthias Christegaard at Bromby was one that kept on coming round and round. Again, when we were first wanting to go for him, the words were meant to be, it was around about maybe £7-8 million. That then kicked up around about £10 million. And now, again, they're saying it could be anywhere from 10, looking creep, 12 million, or gets a wee bit more. And I've even heard as high as £14 million from now. Christegaard, let's just snapshot him. Playing at Brøndby, no European experience as far as I can see. 174 appearances, 74 goals, 29 assists, 10,391 minutes on a pitch. And this season, 27 appearances, 16 goals, 5 assists. Now, where's the pivot? As the manager says, he spoke so highly, Maeda, and he's essentially said that he looks as if he is going to be one off, if not the main striker moving forward. It's not discredited the fact that he wants another striker, and as we know, it's one of those ones, I'm sure you'll give your opinions on it. Adam Ida's in the building, 9 million. He paid his, I can't say that enough, he paid his fee. He earned that move. He paid his fee. It's neither here nor there. It's old rope money for Celtic. We should be paying that kind of money. This season, however, it hasn't quite worked out as we'd have all hoped. Let's hope that we have a proper pre-season behind him, a bit of confidence, that he can start firing and really be a main contributor. However, there's a void there. Johnny Kenny's not going to be that guy, unfortunately. He might stick about as a fourth choice, but he's not going to be. So Christgården was the one that Celtic were looking at. That was the one we're talking about. But the reality is, do we see them spending 10 plus, maybe up to 12, even stretching with add-ons to 14 million for another striker? As much as we should be doing it, as much as we should and as much as we could be doing it, I don't think they will. So they'll look at alternative options. And apparently, again, Union Saint-Gilloise was playing the other night again. He was playing slightly deeper, not as the first striker. He was kind of playing in behind the striker in that game, as this man here, and he is Franjo Ivanovic. And who is he? Well, it's a 21-year-old Croatian striker. Current market value, again, is said to be in around about £7-8 million. The headline figures, 173 career appearances. Now, this is the interesting bit. Remember what I just said about Christgården? Very, very similar in numbers. 173 career appearances, 78 goals, 25 assists, and he's played 11,386 minutes on a pitch. Started out at Augsburg in Germany, went to Rijeka in Croatia, and then since 24 to 25 seasons, so he's just there at USG. That's where he's been playing. This season, 47 appearances, 21 goals, 8 assists, 4 goals in the Europa League, and 38 Croatia under caps, including 11 goals at those varying levels. Paddy, very, very similar, almost eerily similar to Christgården, but with a potential lower value. Some would say that's cheaping out. Some would say that's shrewd, because the reality is, with the way Maeda's playing, if that continues, he will be choice number 1 striker. You've then got a guy who you've paid £9 million for it. Are you then, I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing it, but are they going to go and spend the Christgården money when potentially they've got a guy who, I would maybe even go as far as say, arguably is playing at a better standard in the Belgian league with European experience, which Christgården doesn't have, of a very similar goal scoring profile and numbers for slightly less. Talk to me about this one, Paddy.
It looks like a decent option, to be fair. You said, obviously, we're playing Antwerp at the weekend. This boy scored twice, one of them being a penalty, which I just had a wee quick look at there while you were talking about him, Steve-O. And we've obviously got Arnie Engels in there who takes penalties, but this boy absolutely battered it right into the bottom corner, which is nice to see as well, and it's good to have those options in there. His goal scoring, his assists, his adaptability, like you say, Steve, he's not just there playing as an out-and-out striker. He was basically playing there as a kind of number 10 role, sitting in behind, and that's something that we need as well, as players that can play in different positions. Obviously, we spoke about bringing in Jeffrey Schlupp, who we know is a bit of a utility player who can do that as well. Sadiki as well, who we've been linked with, again, people who could play in different positions, and it's nice to see that as well, and it's good to see that we're looking at a goal scorer, because how many times have we highlighted this? You just, the name Christgården's been linked to us for so long now. Almost feel like he's a Celtic player because he's just, the name's been there.
To jump in that one, do you think that this is a club with Christgården? Can you understand that, as I say, the reasons could be multiple? One, they weren't to hold on to him for the season, all that kind of stuff, key games and that. But do you also think that it's maybe a stage that potentially it's less to do with Celtic, more to do with Brøndby, where Brøndby are derailing that potential move for him, where they're almost starting to get greedy with it?
Yeah, 100% they are. If you've got an asset, if you've got a kind of a big player part of your team, then you're going to want to keep him, and you're going to want to make sure that he stays there. The move, for me, like I say, it's been hanging about like a bad smell. It's just been there, isn't it? Yes, his statistics are good. Yes, we were crying out for him, but where do you draw the line? It's the same kind of thing again. If he wanted to be at Celtic, he'd be at Celtic. Let's be honest. It's one of the things when a team like Celtic comes calling for you, you do everything in your power to go to them. And for me, this name's been there and it's been hanging about. And for me, it's a goner now. Do you know what I mean? Let's have a look at this boy for Saint-Gelais. And like I said, very, very similar statistics, like you pointed out there, Steve.
The numbers are frightening. You put them side by side.
It's a cheap option.
Almost identical. Yeah, when you put them side by side, it's almost identical, Paul. I had a wee look at him. As Paddy says, he's scored 3 goals in as many games, 2 against Antwerp, scored 1 the last game as well. Obviously, an up-and-comer. Now, you look at his trajectory, Augsburg, Jaika, and now he's at them. Yes, would £7-8 million for a guy who's kind of just burst onto the scene and still finding his footing, would that be a roll of dice? Absolutely, of course it would. But again, as we've said with some players, as we said with Arne Engels, for example, these are guys that see if you like the look of them, and that is the price. You have to pay it because 1, you've got the finances, you can do it, and 2, if you've scouted them, went to the effort of looking at them, and they fit the profile, get them in the door. Because see if you don't, like what happened with Christegarden, they'll get to the stage where they'll just start, the club will price you out a move. Again, Christegarden, 10-12 million, we could pay that. However, it's now verging on the stage where they're becoming greedy with it. And I can't blame Celtic for pivoting potentially and looking at this guy. In around £7-8 million, still a decent outlay. I like the look of the profile of what I've seen off him. I would say he gives me Gary Hooper vibes. He's about 6 foot, so slightly taller, I would say, than Gary Hooper. Quite muscly. He would definitely be a fan of men, women, everybody, because he's a good-looking chap and he's a big, physical, strong guy. Good turn of pace, and he obviously knows what the goal is. Is that one, again, asking a very simple question, Paul, how does that one tickle your fancy? And with the European experience there, does it make him something of a better option potentially than Christegarden? Or is it Christegarden the new Ida, where fans have got it so drilled into their head that if it's no Christegarden, it's no good enough and it's cheating out?
Exactly. The Christegarden thing, if we do still have a vested interest in bringing him in, it gets one more visit. We can't get held to ransom over him. This is Brøndby. Yes, the market is a different place now, and players are obviously clubs and agents and all the rest of it. But we really have to be realistic and think, right, there's an offer, take it or leave it. If that's the case, then so be it. But if they go into this other boy, he's, as you say, get very, very similar figures. He's got the European kind of experience, which does give it a bit more of a pull factor for me. Croatian, he's got loads of experience, I think, in his age. Brilliant. I would definitely be keen on adding him. But it all comes down to, do you throw all your eggs into one basket? It is going to be a probably £8 to £10 million purchase, or less. But I think it will end up going to those kind of lengths. We do have the situation at the moment with Ida. He's not going to get into the team unless there's a big change in terms of our main man at the moment who's banging the goals in. So I don't think anytime soon Ida will become a striking option. So we definitely still do have to have more coverage in that department. And listen, the two of them are exciting players who have got great potential. So it just depends where the club see with our system who's going to suit best. And I don't want us to get into the Ida Norwich situation again, where the price goes up and up and up.
But again, I think as we're talking, if there's any solidity in these rumours, because that's what they are at this moment in time, starting early is always a good point. It's always a good point. If you're running the eye over them, maybe as we says with the boy from Levante, even going as far to make an approach and throw something out there at the earliest possible juncture, it gives you the best fighting chance, right? Now, definitely, I would, if Celtic are interested in any of these players, I say they go and do it whilst the squad is there. Don't go and look for Sadiki if that's who you want when Hatati's left. Because they know you need a midfielder. Get them in, and then that's you've got your cover in, and then you can sell off whoever it may well be. Do what you need to do. You've got the players in. That will ultimately drive down the price. It will give you a bit of more of a bargaining chip because you're not showing them a depleted squad and a requirement to plug gaps. That's the way Celtic need to be doing it. One thing I would ask you, Paul, though, is, as we well know, Union Saint-Gilloise have direct links through ownership to Mr. Tony Bloom, who is one of the head honcho of Brighton. Now, what I would say here is potentially USG are going to be something of proving ground. If there's big and bright stars that they might want to filter them into the Brighton setup. Despite these guys' figures and they've become integral to the team, I still don't think that they are the type of guys that are going to suddenly make the step up to Brighton. Now, Brighton don't have total superstars. They have amazing players, but not marquee names. So I can understand that getting guys to USG might not be that strange. That could be the way that they work. They cultivate good players. They unearth gems at cheap price and they turn them into superstars. I still think that particularly Ivanovic, he's young in stature and young coming into the team, just freshly in the door. A jump to the Prem is a leap too far for him. Would you have any concern over that ownership, that could be a blocker on it, where they're maybe eyeing up these guys? Or do you even see it as more of an opportunity where they'll say, well, do you know what? Not quite ready for Brighton. Celtic are a good intermediate team. Go there, and whether it's a heavy sell-on clause or a first refusal to buy for USG to then, off to Brighton. Is that something that concerns you?
Who knows? It's really hard to say. Certainly, we would have to place ourselves into the argument that we're the better option. That would be something that the club would need to put forward to the players via their agents, and hope that they can be convinced that coming to a league, like the SPL, to a team that's winning trophies, etc., would be a better experience for these players rather than probably playing, patchwork some of the games here and there for Brighton. Whether they're actually going to feature remains to be seen. They'll probably be farmed out from there to somewhere else. So whereas we could get these players in and really develop them and get them first team experience and winning trophies, for any player that should be the absolute draw. But football's obviously a lot different from that. A lot of them prefer the shiny lights and the bigger wages and etc. So who knows whether that would be a factor. But certainly we have to place ourselves in amongst other clubs that will obviously be looking at them as well and make sure that we're ahead of it. But it just depends how the scouting values it.
Paddy finishes up on these rumours. Again, any concern around the Brighton thing as being a sticky wicket if we are interested in these guys?
No, kind of similar to what Paul says there. Celtic make winners out of players. And it's about giving players that mentality. So listen, if I was the person in charge of Saint Gilloise, you would look at Celtic and you go, do you know what, that is a cracking stepping stone, because these players are going to go there, they're going to learn how to win, they're going to learn how to want that. It's going to give them that little bit of desire, basically, in their game to want to be winners, to want to have medals and trophies and things like that, because let's face it, at Celtic it's expected that you come in the door and win medals. And that for me is a good thing, and it's a positive for us as well. Obviously, we've got the Champions League there to look forward to as well, and I think that's a great bargaining chip that we have, especially looking at other teams.
Those 8 games there.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And that again puts your player in the shop window. So if you're Saint Gilloise and you're looking at maybe loaning one of these players out or whatever, I mean, you're looking at it and you're going, yeah, they're going to get a lot of exposure in this side. They're going to get shown, they're going to be on TV countless amounts of times, they're going to be playing for Celtic, and do you know what I mean? There's a lot of positives there. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer for me. Celtic's the team to be at. I'm not just saying that obviously because we're a Celtic podcast, but for me, I think it's a great shout. So I'd be pretty positive, obviously, looking at these players. Obviously, it's in positions that we've identified, in positions that we really need to strengthen. So these players, looking at the statistics, obviously we don't know millions about them. We're going with obviously your expert knowledge here, Steve-O, and the research that you've managed to do here. So
don't use the word expert.
We've been looking at it. So
armchair scout,
exactly, mate. But listen, you've identified the numbers there as well, and we can only go with that. And if these numbers are coming into the SPFL and going into our side, then I'm pretty positive that it's looking good going forward. And it's nice to see a bit of business getting done early, as we said before.
Well, that's it. That's the rumours. That's it. As we say, it is rumours. However, we know there was a scout over there. They were eyeballing Balikwisha. Those other two were on the pitch. Maybe there is something in it, maybe there's not, but as we say, it's good. We're still in the season and we're getting names fired out. You remember the last transfer window during the summer? Nothing. Scramble. So it's good that there's at least names coming out, and particularly with Balkisha is one that you're revisiting it and it shows a bit of consistency. So hopefully the behind the scenes with the transfer, it's been ironed out, it's been adjusted, and it's actually going to be good this time round. So that's that one. Before we finish up, a lighter-hearted stuff, as we know. Other, not rumours, leaks. The first one, we all love a Fitbit tap, don't we? We all wait, we're bated breath. Talk to me about this. Now, we saw this picture of Jota, and it looks like he's just at his bed, and maybe it's the new Celtic jammies range, because I wouldn't like it to be the new Celtic away tap. It's for the football saddles. I believe it's the Teamgeist, which is our old retro styling with the peculiar collar. Liverpool and the likes, you will remember, had that there. This is supposed to be the new away top. Now, people have likened it to an homage to this topper for 97. It's nowhere near it. That there is the pinnacle. That there's a shambles. And then, of course, we've got this. We've seen this. This is going to be the drop of the, I assume they'll call it, what is it, the lifestyle range or the training range. Very similar. Do you ever remember back in the NTL era, we had this very similar gloomy yellow stroke lime green apparel? I hark back there. Listen, Paddy, you love your kits. You love your tracky taps. Any of them doing anything for you?
They're okay. I'm not going to jump out there and say they're absolutely amazing. They're absolute nailers, like you showed, Steve. You showed. He
says somebody's wearing Hull gear. It's on.
Listen, I didn't say I wasn't going to buy it. Of course, I'm going to buy it. I mean, let's be honest. I'm the footballing dad that goes out and buys all the kit. But yeah, listen. You showed the pinnacle top. You showed the one there with Henrik wearing it, and that for me was an iconic strip. It's gorgeous, and a lot of folk comparing it to that. And for me, there's no comparison there. It's nowhere near it. It is a leak that's came out quite early. I stuck it on one of the socials, Steve. I stuck it on TikTok. There's been a lot of good feedback about it. There's been a lot of bad feedback about it. It's one of these ones that I think is going to divide the opinion of Celtic fans, but it probably won't stop us buying it, because that's what we do. You think to the home strip the other year there, Steve, and I'll grab it.
The Turtles one.
Think back to this kit. And there was a lot of people going, I'm never buying that. It was one of the best selling tops in our previous seasons. And you look at it and you go, that just sums us up, because we might look at it and go, I'm never going to buy that, but we will buy it. We'll go out and get it. Do you know what I mean? It's 100%. It's just what we do. It's not the most eye-catching football top I've ever seen, but yeah, listen, it's a Celtic top nonetheless. Maybe without the sponsor, it'll look lovely.
Yeah, yourself, Paul. I know you talk about the tops.
On the face of it, I think it's actually, if you take those pinstripes, you're not going to do this, but if it wasn't for the pinstripes, unsponsored, that would maybe look a lot better, because the pinstripes are horrific. There's no need for them to be on there. It just looks, to me, kind of like a training top.
That's the adequate amount of lime greens.
Aye.
That's the adequate amount of lime green stripes it needs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the pinstripe thing, it's obviously on the away top just now that we've got.
I know.
It's not as condensed as
very
that.
similar.
That was a deal breaker for me, I'm afraid. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just can't do the wee stripes. It just upsets me. I don't know what it is. Listen, when you see the players wearing that strip, it'll get a different take. People will see the team wearing it and they'll be like, do you know what? It looks better on the players. Oh, maybe end up getting it 70 quid later.
Aye, that's that. Well, ending it on a wee drop of that, because we're all sad, as we say. As much as we get anticipation and excitement around about getting those new players in the door, we always want to know what the new tap's going to look like. We've heard apparently the home one's going to have this tartan design on it. Apparently it's the first time. Lies. Do you ever remember the New Balance one, the rounded collars, and it had the sort of tartan check through it, and the plain white one had a tartan check through it? Absolute nonsense. Don't come with that marketing crack, because there's sad cases like me that remember these things. Anyway, whether you like that top or hate it, whether you would go out and buy all that training stuff or not, let us know in the comments below. That's us done for the wee update there. As we say, there's a game, St Johnstone round the corner. I'm sure the guys will come back at the weekend to cover that. I unfortunately will not be in the house. It's Steve-O's 40th tomorrow. Unbelievable, Jeff. So I'll be away doing stuff. But looking forward to the game. I will catch the game, and I'll probably comment about it on at CWPod1888 on the X. So guys, thank you for taking the time to join us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this beautiful, sunny Friday morning.
Yes.
It's time to get ourselves back to enjoying it. So
Definitely.
thank you very
Absolutely.
much. And until next time, we'll take care of yourselves. And as always, tell them, Paddy,
Hail, hail, guys.
hail, hail. See you later.
All right.